Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So last time we were working on Little John. Yeah. And we were lowering the front end. We put new upper and lower control arms with fresh ball joints, fresh control arm bushings, and a drop spindle to get this thing lowered. Driver's side went swimmingly well. 32 inches, pretty well on the nose right here at the bottom of the fender. Passenger side, I was about an inch, anywhere from 7/8 to an inch and an eighth, inch and a quarter higher on the passenger side while we were fighting with this thing. I tried to get that done on camera. Did not get that finished on camera, but don't worry, off camera, I was able to get this side fixed. Only took me 4 more shots. It was infuriating because I was like, I really don't want to do this many times, but you know, it is what it is. So got the passenger side leveled up. Also ended up getting the sway bar bushings replaced, at least on the control arm side. I didn't do the frame side. While I was under there, I discovered that one of the mounts for the sway bar was bent all to hell. Still kind of is. It's not as bad as it was because I beat the ever-living crap out of it. Got it somewhat straight, but it's still a little off. So got all that done. So now what are we left with? We are left with, well, we're left with the rear end. The truck right now is sitting, you know, with the nose down and, you know, rear up. Yes, there's a joke in there, but yeah, it's sitting a little weird right now. So we've got to get the rear end dropped down. And I know I'm probably repeating myself, but if you remember, we've got a hanger and shackle kit for it. So these guys right here will replace the front hangers on the leaf springs, moving them up on the frame a little bit, mixed in with these drop shackles, which will drop the back end of the spring or lift, you know, put them up higher. So we've got all this stuff to put on. These guys are a little bit more involved. What we've got to do is the old front hangers, they're riveted on, so we've got to cut those rivets off. You know, it's a whole thing. So we'll get into all that. But first, I got to get this guy jacked up, get the wheels off of it, get jack stands underneath it, and get everything kind of laid out and ready to go, because there's a little bit of a process that you need to kind of follow on this in order to do it as quickly as possible. So anyhow, I guess that's it for right now. So I'll get the wheels and tires off this guy, get him on stands, and I will catch back up with y'all under the truck. All right. All right. Now I can actually hear, so I'm not yelling at the camera. Yeah. A little over an hour. Got the truck lifted up, got the wheels off. No problem. I got one shock and half the other one. So I think it's quite possible these shocks are original, because they are completely blown out, and I don't think these bolts have ever been off. So this is everything it took to get that shock off. A little bit ridiculous. So probably spent about 45 minutes on just that one shock. And that's kind of the thing I was worried about back here in the back when you're dealing with these leaf springs and the shackles, and you know, you got your bushings. A lot of time you've got inside those bushings a steel sleeve, and they will rust to the bolt and basically seize to it. And it's like pulling eye teeth trying to get them damn things out. So neat little tool that I picked up a while back. I can't remember where I saw it. I just saw it and I was like, damn, that would be handy. Is for your air hammer or air chisel. Just a little tool that you can put a socket on the end of it. So the lower bolt for the shock, I'm running the same thing over here on the passenger side. The lower shock bolt is seized to the sleeve inside the shock bushing. So I was able to put a nut back on the just a couple threads in, set a socket over it, put an extension, and then hit it with the air hammer and finally get that stupid thing to move. You know, putting the impact on it, I can't even get the bolts to break loose hardly with the impact. So it's going to be a fight. So I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a slow progression as it goes to doing this rear end. I still got to get the lower bolts off the passenger side. And then once I get that off, then I can move on to actually taking the front bolts out for the spring hangers. So I can get those guys out. And then, you know, the rest of it, cutting the hangers off isn't that big of a deal. Those rivets are actually somewhat easy to get out of there. Yeah, I'm going to continue fighting and get this passenger one done. Hopefully it doesn't take me another 45 minutes to get it out. But, yeah, you never know. So, oh, Lord. But as soon as I get that done, I'll get the camera back on and we'll get to actually getting into the nitty gritty of this thing. So, all right, I guess I'll see y'all here in just a minute. All right, passenger side shock's off. That went a lot faster, mainly because I kind of already had a process down from figuring it out on the driver's side. So, yeah, these shocks may be a little bit blown. I pulled this one out, but you can see. Here, I'll do it with one finger. It's yeah, there's no resistance. I've seen 3-year-olds put up more fight, so it's pretty bad. Yeah, here's the other side. Yep, definitely blown out. So, all right, that's cool. I've got new shocks for the rear. They're probably too long, but they'll be fine. For now, I can always get some shock extender brackets and put on there later. So the shocks are out of the way. There's not a ton of other stuff left to really concern ourselves with here, or that's going to get, you know, big time in the way. The main thing we got to do is watch our brake line, make sure we don't pinch it. The one thing I don't know for sure, and I haven't looked this up yet, but you see this rod right here, that goes to a secondary proportioning valve. And that guy is set up to, you know, as the truck gets a load on it, to bias more pressure towards the rear brakes, try to, you know, help things out on the stopping department. So with us lowering this guy about 4 inches in the back, I would think that that guy's going to be going a little bit more biased to the rear. So there may be some adjustment there. I don't know right yet. I know on Big John, I took that out because I was running disc in the rear. So I took that out and just plumbed it up normal. Plus I don't really plan on hauling stuff. I can with Big John. I'll definitely be able to haul stuff with this, but just haven't really had the need for it. I've got my daily, which, you know, it's got air conditioning. So it's a little bit nicer when it goes to, you know, go to picking up old junk that you need to haul. But yeah, so what we got here is this front hanger. Let's see, all my lights are kind of, yeah. So you can see the hanger right there. There's 6 rivets holding it in. First things first, we got to pull that bolt out, which again, we'll probably run into some problems. More than likely that bolt is seized on the steel sleeve. More than likely, they usually are. That one has an added difficulty because you can't really get to the back side of the bolt because of the way the thing's set up. So worst case we'll do is we'll cut the bolt. I can always go to the hardware store, pick up another grade 8 and slap it in there and it'll be all right. But I'd rather not. I'd rather just go ahead and reuse the old hardware if it's still in good shape. And then I guess another thing you could always do would be just go ahead and cut the whole pocket off, get it out of the way, and then work on it, you know, down and away where you got some room to get to the backside of it. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's going to be first thing is getting that bolt out. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side because we need the front first. And then once we get the front done, we'll move to the back. But yeah, we got to get that bolt out, get the other side out, so that way we can let the springs get out of the way. And then we'll cut those rivets off and get the new hardware in there. So, all right, I'll be right back. Well, here's what we got. Probably ought to go with a shorter socket, but it's just the one I had on me at the moment. I had to go get the shortest 7/8 of the 7/8 combo wrench that I had. I think it's 7/8 and a 13/16, because the regular 7/8 is too long to fit. So I was able to get him set back in there. I was able to use my extra long handled ratchet with the pipe and was able to get that bolt to finally break loose. I just hosed it down again with some more Freon. That wrench is kind of wedged in there now, so she's not going nowhere. And I'm actually getting able to turn it now. So I guess I'm going to keep on turning on this guy, and maybe it'll come out. Hopefully it'll come out. But it's a fun process, especially on a 38-year-old vehicle that's not really had anything done to it. So all right, here we go. Well, that was successful. We actually got the bolts out most of the way. The problem is now there's a little, I need to jack the rear end up in order to take some of that weight off the, to either jack it up or let it down. I'm not sure. To take some of the weight off that bolt, and I can just slide it right out. Right now, it's kind of just where it's at. So we'll let that ride for now. So I'm gonna go to the other side, do the same thing, get that one to where the bolt's ready to come out, and then we can adjust the jack as needed in order to get the bolts out, and then we can go to getting that front hanger cut off. So, all right, I'm gonna go do the other side. I'm not gonna worry about filming it because it's the exact same as this side. Unless something's different over there, which probably isn't, because it's pretty much the same thing, just mirror image. So, all right, I'll check back in a few. All right, passenger side's out. It came out much easier than the driver's side. Hopefully this isn't a pattern. Well, maybe if it is a pattern, that'd be all right. I don't have to fight 100%, just 50%. So still got to get this guy out. I tried jacking up on the jack a little bit to try to raise this, get some of the weight off of it. It still doesn't want to pull out. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put the impact back on it, and I'm going to take a smaller wrench, like a, I don't know, what size was this? 13/16, maybe a 3/4, and get it just around the shank of the bolt and up against that washer and pull while I run the impact. That should let it, kind of want to walk itself out. So let's see what happens. Yahtzee. All right, front of the springs are loose. So now I just need to lower the rear end, and that should drop these out of the pockets. And that'll allow us to go ahead and start knocking the rivets off for this guy. So let's move on with that. So when it comes to cutting these rivets off, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. One way I've done in the past, which works pretty well, is take a cutoff wheel, cut you a cross end on all the heads. Not so much going to be able to do that here, but I have had pretty good luck with just sharpening up my my blade or my bit on my my air hammer, air chisel, whatever you want to call it, and just getting up underneath this guy and just knocking the tops right off of them. I've had pretty good luck with that in the past. So since, well, two reasons. One, we got a gas tank here that I know the vent line or the return line's leaking. So yeah, sparks, not a good thing. So try to avoid sparks and not cut. So we're just going to use the air chisel and try to chisel these guys off, and then chisel these guys off. I know you can't hardly see them because of the shadow, but yeah, they're the same spacing. So we're going to go through with just the air chisel and try to knock these guys off. Typically it works. Like I said, a lot of times I like to go ahead and cut a little relief into the head of the rivet. It just makes things seem to move a lot faster. But like I said, with this gas tank, I don't really want to take any chances here. Also, don't forget your eyes and your ears. So that way, you're kind of protected, because it gets awful loud up underneath here, and you never know when you're going to catch a piece of metal towards the old eyeballs here. So, all right, set the camera up, and I'll try to get y'all a good angle on this, and we'll go to cutting on that. right, so if I had a longer chisel, I probably wouldn't be running into this problem, but the body of my air chisel can't fit right up in here. It's getting all hemmed up. So on this top one, I just barely was able to get a little bit of it cut, and that's just definitely not going to do the job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my punch, and I'm going to punch the rivets out. And hopefully that way I've got enough flex on this guy, I can pull him out a little bit, and I should be able to go behind the bracket and go ahead and knock that on off. I know in the directions they say, you know, if you can pull the bed off, but, you know, they say that like it's super easy and everybody's got, you know, all sorts of really cool tools to do that with, and are not doing this in their shop or driveway. So, yeah, pull the bed off, they say. Yeah, that, okay, whatever. Yeah, so if you had the bed off, it'd be a hell of a lot easier. But yeah, if you can just, you know, I figure if I can just punch all these 5 out that I've already cut the heads off of, I should be able to flare him out enough to get the chisel behind that and knock that last one out. So let's see if I'm right. Don't know if I can get to that one, but it does appear as though I've got a little gap here. Just throw that on the ground. And I'm stuck. It's as easy as that. So yeah, having a gas tank in the way is definitely, that's a little bit of a problem. I don't have this problem on the driver's side because I don't have a gas tank over there. So driver's side, I'll have a lot more room to operate, I would think. So now that that's off, I've got to open up these 4 holes. These 4 guys are what we'll be using for the new mounts. So I've got to open these guys up, I believe, to 7/16. I'll have to double check the directions and make sure that's right. But just have to waller these out so that the new hardware will go in there, and then we just bolt up the new piece. So I'm going to go fight the other side, and I'll catch back up with you once I got that side knocked off, and we're ready to start actually putting the hardware on this side. So I'll be right back. Here's my new hanger, and looks like it'll bolt up nicely right there, utilizing those top 4 bolts. The instructions are kind of messed up here. because it says using the 2 upper and 2 lower bolts to mount this, which that would be these, or holes. That would be these, and yeah, that's not going to work. Now the fun part is you could screw this up because it will fit on these. You could use these 2 holes, or you can use these 2 holes. I'm gonna go with these 2 holes because maximum drop. So I've taken, don't give me no crap, I'm using an impact for this, but I've taken a step bit and I just threw a little bit of yellow paint. That's the 1/2 inch mark. I got to drill the 7/16. So as long as I don't go into the yellow, I'm good. If I can get this guy to fit in here somewhere. Well, now that we've got the holes drilled out, now comes the fun part of fighting with all the narrow and tight space over here to get the bolts in with the new brackets. Ow! So now the bolts are in. What I'll do now is got to put nuts on the backside, but of course, that's a whole thing. So according to the directions, go ahead and get these guys snugged up. It doesn't give me any type of foot pounds to torque them to or anything like that. So basically just, crank them down as best you can. And I'm probably just going to use the impact to knock them down. And then I'll move over to the passenger side, get that up. And then all we got to do after that is jack the rear end back up and get our leaf spring back up into here and get her mounted up. Probably shouldn't have done that because I'll pull the bolts out. So let me get these bolted up. I'm gonna go get the other side squared away, and then we'll be right back, and we'll get the leaf spring. We'll wrestle the leaf spring up and into its place. All right, so got the hangers all bolted up. Wasn't too bad. Passenger side was a little tighter just because of the exhaust. It's right up next to the frame, so there wasn't a whole lot of room for my hands in there. But I've gone ahead and jacked up the front, or jacked up the axle to go ahead and get it into the hanger. It's not quite where it needs to be, but yeah, we're pretty close. So I may be able to do this and bang on it and get it to hook and go. Yep. So, yeah. That's a big hunk of nasty. It does say on the directions not to tighten this, but there's not a ton of room over here between the frame and the new hanger. So I'm just kind of gonna get a couple threads started. Maybe I might have to bang it a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, get some threads going there, because my fear is if I was to knock this all the way in, it's gonna be dang near right up against the frame and I won't have room to get the nut on. But the nut's on there. It's got a handful of threads. Yeah, so nut's on there. Washer's on there. She's ready to get tightened down. But like I said, can't tighten it down just yet because we got to do the back. So I've got to get the passenger side done, pretty much the same thing. It's not a really difficult process here. This part's actually relatively easy. Actually, the whole thing's not that bad. I've done suspensions that are much worse than this. But the problem that I'm running into is it's just everything's really locked down. Everything's really grimy, really rusty, and pretty much fighting me on a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's coming along pretty good. I think I'm in this so far about 4 hours, fighting with rust and stuff, and I've got the front of the rear done-ish. So the next big challenge is going to be getting back here and getting these guys knocked out and trimming up that rib on the bed. It shouldn't be too terribly bad. We've got to break that top bolt loose there and there on the shackle, because we're replacing that whole shackle with a longer one, which will replacing it with a longer one, which will drop the truck. So I did notice that it came with some new bump stops. I can't remember if I made mention of that before. It doesn't say anywhere in the directions to take the factory bump stop off. So I guess I'm probably going to have to do that. No big deal. It's not really difficult to do that. This guy, I think is more rivets. Those aren't too terribly bad to get. Pretty much take the air chisel and just get in here and just get at it, and that'll do it. You know, you can always take a grinder on there and put a little cross on the top of the rivet. That'll make it go a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. So, all right, enough of that. So I'm going to get over on the passenger side and get that leaf spring up in the hanger, get the bolt in, and get it loosely bolted so it's ready to go. And then I think I'm going to stop and get me some dinner and probably call it a night for today and get back out here in the morning and do the back of the back. And get those shackles replaced on the rear and put some new shocks on this guy, and we'll be ready for business. So all right, I'm gonna go do that, and then I'm gonna go inside. So I'll see y'all guys in the morning. Well, all right, next day out here, finishing up the rear end. So went ahead and got started. Got the passenger side done first. Since I've been filming the driver's side, figure we'll just stay on the driver's side. So I went ahead and I got the passenger side done, removing the shackle, this bolt from the shackle, attaching it to the shackle hanger, and went ahead and got the nut off and the bolt knocked loose for the leaf spring. So the problem that you run into here, let's see if I can get a little more light in here where we can actually see kind of what's going on. Yeah, that's better. So the problem you're going to run into, one, this bolt comes out on this side, which, hey, that's great. You got plenty of room to get this bolt out. That bolt is captured by the frame. So you can't get this guy out without getting it up above the frame or getting it completely away from all this. And with this being 1-ton springs and a really heavy pack, we're not going to be able to just grab it and pull and flare out and come back, come out and back and around like I've done on 1/2-ton springs. These are a little tighter than that, so that's not going to work. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get this bolt out, and we'll get this guy broke loose and get the nut off. Go ahead and get it knocked loose and pretty much ready to go. And then once we get this bolt out and we pry the shackle out of the hanger, we can get it just above. You can see there's a little gap here between the bed floor and the frame rail. We can get it just above that, and we can knock that bolt all the way out on the other side of the frame rail there. So I'm not sure why GM designed it that way. I've heard people say that it's, to keep in case the nut walks off, it keeps the bolt from being able to just completely fall out and your spring, come loose. I don't know if there's any, truth to that. Those nuts are on there pretty damn good. So I don't know if I've ever heard of a case of those walking off, but that's what GM did. So we'll probably recreate that whenever we do this, or not. We might not. We might just go ahead and put the bolt on the outside and the nut on the inside. So we'll see what we feel like when we get to that point. So, so anyhow, I'm going to get under here. I'm going to get these guys broke loose. Like I said, I've been soaking these things for better than a week. So the passenger side barely gave a fight. So hopefully this side's not really going to fight me too bad. But the driver's side has been the pain in the butt side for me on this truck. So we'll see how that goes. Once that's done, we can get the new shackles out and we can start marking and figuring out where we need to cut on that rib on the bed floor. So, all right, let's get to it. so we can see that we're loose. The bolts actually weren't seized. I'm really shocked by that, but I'm also really happy that that's the case. So what we're going to do here is we're going to jack the rear end up, which should jack the leaf springs up, and they should go all the way and kiss the bed floor. And once they kiss that bed floor, we should be able to knock those bolts the rest of the way out, and then we can move on to marking and cutting on the rib there. All right, here we go. All right, simple enough. Got the bolt off. I'll probably clean like this out because there's all sorts of stuff. Hey, there's part of the mouse nest that was in there. We'll clean this guy out a little bit, and we'll get the new shackle, just got a bolt slid in it on both sides of the new shackle, and we're going to lay it up against this and figure out where we need to cut, also how high we need to cut. Let me go get the other side knocked out, and then we'll get to measuring and cutting and figuring out what we got to do here. So be right back. Alrighty. So you want to go ahead and put your bolt in on the new shackle. Go and get your bolt put in for the leaf spring side. I ended up having to drill this top hole out. These other holes were all fine. My bolt slid in just fine, but these top holes, I guess, were misdrilled, or the powder coat was a little thick, so I couldn't get the bolt through. So I had to open them up just a touch. It wasn't much, but I had to open them up just a little bit so I could get the actual bolt through, because it's important. You've got to accommodate the nut and the head of the bolt whenever you're making your marks for your cut up here. And when you're putting this shackle in, you got an open side, you got a closed side. Closed side goes to the back. So since there's not a lot of room to operate up in here, we're just going to lay it back. This will still get us pretty close to where we need to be. And there we go. All right, shackles in temporarily. So trying to rotate it up, you'll notice I've still got a gap right here. The nut is actually hitting on this little piece. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but there's a flange right here where it's bent out off this hanger. The nut's hitting that, so it won't let me go all the way up to touch this rib. No big deal. I can still lay my pin right here. Let's see, this little dot, it's a drain hole. We'll probably use that as a marker, and we'll just go right on the side of that hole and cut there. And then we can go on the inside here, and we can put a mark up here on the rib, wherever we can get to, and put a mark there so we know where to cut on the inside, because we're going to need clearance for these guys to swing through right here. That's why I got to cut this rib out, in case you didn't know. So this can be done a few different ways. I'm going to use a paint pen just to put a line, and then put a line, and that'll give me my first cuts. And then you don't know exactly how high you need to go, but you can kind of put a little line, a straight edge on this guy, and mark on this backside where you need to go. So when it comes to cutting this out, it could be challenging. You might have to use a mix of different tools. I'm planning on using a cutoff wheel and maybe a Sawzall, because there's no way I'm going to get a cutoff wheel back in here. So I could probably get a Sawzall in there and cut that with the Sawzall. Now, like I said in the directions, they say take the bed off. If the bed was off, this would be super easy, and you can make it look really nice and clean. Under the truck with the bed still on, definitely makes it a challenge. So we're probably not going to have that clean of a cut. It might look like hot garbage, but nobody's really going to be looking under here anyway, so we're not going to worry about it. But all right, I'm going to make my marks, and we'll get ready to start cutting. it's cut. My camera cut off, and I don't know exactly when it cut off in this whole process. There was a lot going on here. So just in case the camera didn't cover it, I'm able to access back here just fine with the angle grinder. So I can make this cut. Couldn't make that cut, but I can make this cut. I can make my up and down cut on the backside okay with the angle grinder, and I was able to cut across the top of the back with the angle grinder. To get this cut on this flat side, the bottom side here, I ended up just setting a Sawzall with a long blade on it and just cut back and got that cut off. It's not square, it's not even, it looks like absolute dog crap, but it should work. And then cutting in here on this front side, I was able to get this side too with the Sawzall, but cutting this side across the top, that's a chore because you got so many things in the way, you can't get an angle grinder in there. So I came in from the backside, cut what I could with the angle grinder, and then ended up just taking a pair of pliers and just working it back and forth till it broke off. So we've got this cut out now. I still got to do the passenger side. I feel like I'm yelling because my earplugs are still in. I still got to get the passenger side going. So as soon as I get that cut, actually what I'll do before then, actually we'll do that right now. Since I'm talking about it, thinking about it, we'll slap this guy in and see what our clearances look like. That's one I'm hitting on. All right. So I'm still hitting on the top piece here, which is one of the most difficult to cut. Luckily now that I've got everything kind of cut and out of the way, I can take a flap disc and just shave that down. I'm not hitting by much, maybe an eighth to a quarter inch, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I can take a flap disc and knock that guy down. Take a flap disc and I can knock this guy down. I was worried because this backside cut, I was able to cut it really high. The front side I can't. There's just not that much room. So yeah, I'll take a flap disc and I'll get in there and shave that down real good, and it'll clear, and then we can move to the passenger side, get that side done. Actually, I'm not even gonna film that because why? It's the same thing. Yeah, we'll shave this guy down and that should give us full swing on our shackle. So as far as width is concerned, I think we're good. It's just the height part of it that we're a little short on. So I'll do that, and I'll do the passenger side, and then we'll bolt this guy up and start cranking down some bolts. Well, all right, folks. So went ahead, got this guy all bolted in. Ended up taking a file to where I cut out on that rib and smooth the edges down. That way it's not sharp and not gonna, cut me if I have to reach up in there for something. But went ahead and knocked all the edges down, got them smoothed out, and shot it with some black spray paint just to keep it from rusting. I did have to raise the jack just a little bit in order to get that top bolt in. But once I got that in there, got it all cinched down on this side, came up here, cinched it down up here, slid up underneath it, put my new shocks on. So I still haven't put the weight on the axle to see if if the bump stops need to be trimmed or what. I'm sure they do. I'm sure I really don't want to do it, but if it means I'm going to be banging my brains out every single time I hit a bump, I'll knock them out. But so realistically, this doesn't take too terribly long to get this stuff done. Like I said, I think yesterday, this is not really difficult. This is not rocket surgery. Coming back here on the back side of this truck, we're dealing with leaf springs. Leaf springs are probably the simplest suspension type to deal with, outside of, the actual design. But as far as lowering and lifting, generally leaf springs are, that's the cat's pajamas right there. It's pretty simple. So yeah, so I went through, I double checked everything, made sure everything's good and tight. Went ahead, double checked my bolts on the bracket, Like I said, I've just tightened these down, so they're definitely good. May have given myself an aneurysm cranking them because I don't want them to go nowhere. Went ahead, like I said, got the shocks on. That actually went a lot smoother this time because, well, the threads weren't all boogered up. I took and cleaned them and got everything cleaned up so the nuts would actually, go on and off. So, all right, I guess real quick, we're going to put the weight on the jack, which is holding the axle, and we're going to see what happens here with these bump stops. I'm going to set the camera like right over here, so that way we can see what happens whenever I get the weight of the truck on the axle and see where that bump stop lands. And if we got to knock it off, we'll go ahead and knock it off and get that handled real quick while we got it up in the air. But at this point, we're damn near done. So I'm kind of anxious. I'm excited to get this thing pulled out and actually drive it with it lowered and looking pretty slick. So all right, let me set this up and we'll take a look at those bump stops and see what we're going to do there. There we go. Well, I think we're going to be okay. That is with the weight on the axle. Now, granted, going down the road, there's going to be bigger bumps. And, it may contact the bump stop, but that's fine. If I run into that, it's not that hard to slide up underneath here and knock those off and put the other ones on there. The thing that I'm actually kind of pleased with is my shock is still got about 2 or 3 inches of travel there. And it looks like I will hit the bump stop before I bottom out the shock. So that's good. But, like I said, worst case, shock extenders, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to set this guy back on the jack stands and get the wheels on it. And I guess the next time I see y'all guys, it'll be with this truck outside. So I guess I'll be right back. All right, so went ahead, got everything buttoned up underneath the truck, wheels on, and yes, very excited. So little John is a little littler now, so sitting nice and pretty level. It might be just a touch squatted in the back end. I could put tape on it and just verify, but it may be a little lower in the back than it is in the front, but that looks so much better. That looks so much better than it did. So it's filthy right now. It's got handprints all over it where I've been, clambering around up underneath it, and I'm pretty tickled. So I think what's next for little John is definitely a bath. It needs to be washed again, and then I need to come back over the hood where this is faded out a little bit. It's really hard to tell that it's faded in the sun because it's pretty daggone bright, but yeah, I need to go back over those spots on the hood where the clear coat's not there and clean that up just a little bit. I'm gonna go inside the shop where I don't have so much wind and everything, so be right back. So once I got little John out of the shop, I took it down the driveway, took it up the street, drove it around just a little bit, took it in the backyard where it's kind of bumpy and everything, just to see what would happen. Air ride's great. I'm not bottoming out. Everything's fine. Now, if I had a pretty good load on it, yeah, maybe it'd bottom out, but it's not bottoming out right now, so I'm pretty pleased. So what we're gonna do from this point with little John, there's a couple different avenues. Really hoping I don't open up a big can, but I'm thinking I might just have to. But still needs a few things. It still needs some electrical stuff sorted out. I still don't have any gauges on the dash, well, except for the volt gauge. It needs a tank for the driver's side, for the fuel tank. What else does it need? It needs some wiring straightened out to get all the marker lights up and running, like for the dually fenders and the tailgates. I actually ordered new tailgate lights for it. I just haven't put those on yet. So it's still got a few things here and there, but nothing major. nothing that won't keep me from driving it and enjoying the truck. So I think what I'm going to do is, as long as the weather's all right, since I still don't have wipers, yet another thing I need to fix. As long as the weather's all right, I'm going to drive it this week and just kind of enjoy it and see, what little things it really needs. But for all intents and purposes, I'm pretty well sorted out with Little John. I'm just going to drive him to some shows and some stuff around here. Maybe some little cruise-ins. I think next weekend we've got the Columbia Cars and Coffee, which is always a big one. It's the first one of the year for that one. So I may drive Little John out there. I think that's next weekend. I'm pretty sure. So I'll probably drive him out there and kind of show it off out there a little bit. So if you're in the Columbia or southern Middle Tennessee area, or even just the Middle Tennessee area, and you want to see Little John, that's where I'll be. I believe it's next Saturday, but it's the Columbia Cars and Coffee cruise in out in Columbia, Tennessee. So I'm gonna do that. But what's fixing to happen next is I've got a lot of cleaning up to do because the shop is filthy now. I get to pull Steve back into the shop, and then I think probably next episode, I think we're going to do just a little bit of upkeep. Steve needs a fuel pump so bad. That fuel pump, I guess I heard it pretty good on Power Tour, but it'll let the truck idle all day long. But if you go to drive it, it's not going to get over like 1,500 RPM. It can't keep the fuel pressure up. So I really hurt that fuel pump. So I need to put a new pump on it. It's also got a couple other things I need to address on it. Nothing major, just some little things just to make it to where I can actually drive it. Big John needs a starter, has needed a starter for like 8 months now, and I just keep putting it off. So I'm going to probably do that, and a fuel pump on Steve, and try to, wrangle up a few little odd and end things I need to do. And after that, I think we'll get back over here on the K5. Yeah, I know, long time coming. So, so we'll get back to the K5 here very soon. I know I get emails on that every once and again. It's like, hey, when are you gonna get back on that thing? Don't worry, it's coming. So Little John's pretty well sorted. I need to take the next week that I'm out here to get Steve and Big John sorted out, get them ready for show season, and then we'll get cracking on this K5 over here and try to get it done this year. I want to get that one done, or done enough to where I can get it out of the shop and have a little extra work room in here. Well, anyways, I do appreciate y'all guys watching. Look forward to seeing y'all guys next time. Now, I'm trying to maintain my weekly schedule on video releases, but right now, this time of year, there's so many things going on with work, with home. It's spring. I've got a lot of stuff here at the house I've got to get sorted out and done. That takes up, a lot of my weekend and my off time when I'm usually doing this stuff. So I'm still going to try to maintain a weekly schedule, but it may end up being about every other week. So don't be upset or wonder where I'm going or where I've gone. If I don't post every single week, there'll be a video coming out soon. So, so I'm going to try to keep it going on a weekly, but like I said, it might be every other week for a little bit. So anyways, if y'all guys want to follow me on social media, the links are down in the description. If you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button. That just helps. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, why not? Just hit the subscribe button. Don't cost nothing. All it does is help the channel. So I do appreciate y'all guys watching, and I guess I will see y'all guys next time. And just remember, folks, ain't got to be perfect. Just good enough. And this is usually where I would show a picture of Little John. Yeah! Yeah! Y'all guys have a good one. We'll see you next time.